Well, good morning or good afternoon. I'm Darrel Ferguson, Director of Performance Management with Xtime. We really appreciate you guys spending some time with us today to talk about the perfect digital service experience. We're going to give everybody a couple more minutes to get logged in. We've got a lot of folks on the line today and a lot of traffic trying to get logged into the system. One thing I would appreciate, I'm on the road today, so I'm outside of my office. So if someone in the audience would just put in the chat box that you can hear me, that would be much appreciated. Your chat box should be on your control panel on your right. So just anyone in the audience, just give me a yes, a high sign, anything that you guys can hear me. I am on the road today. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Sarah. I really appreciate that. We're going to give everybody just a few more seconds to get logged in, and then we're going to get started. All right, probably about 15 more seconds and we'll get going. Okay, it looks like our attendees are leveling off. So again, Darrel Ferguson, Director of Performance Management. I really appreciate everybody spending a little bit of time with me today to talk about what is the perfect digital service experience. So we're going to try to define that for you today. A couple of notes of housekeeping before we get started. Presentation should last around, roughly 30 minutes today, just depending upon how many questions that you have. Also, one of the main questions we generally get is how do I get a copy of the presentation? Well, that's super simple. In your control panel, you're going to see one of the little panels says handouts. So if you just click that handouts open, you're going to see handouts 1 of 5. It's a PDF version of today's presentation. I also get the question, how do I get a recording of this presentation? That's very easy as well. About an hour ago, you received a reminder email from me reminding you about the webinar today. All you have to do is just respond back to that email. It'll come right to my inbox. You say, hey, I want a recording or a copy of the recording of the presentation, and I'm happy to get that to you. It takes about an hour after the presentation today for that to get loaded up, and I'll be happy to send that to you as well. But the most important thing is interaction, and unfortunately, because we've got so many folks on the call today, and dealerships are quite loud places, we do have you as attendees muted. That doesn't mean we don't want to hear from you, though. So many of you put in your question box that you could hear me. So I know you know where that question box is. So throughout the presentation, if you have any questions, please just throw them in that box, and I will do my dead level best to take time in between thoughts and sections of the presentation to answer your questions directly. If I don't get to all the questions today, don't worry. We keep a log of those, and I'll make sure that we reach out to you and get those answered. So that being said, that is all the housekeeping. So let's just jump in. I always like to start every presentation with a quote, and this could not be more apropos, I believe, for what we're talking about today. And it's all about the customer experience. And love him or hate him, Amazon is a big part of many of our lives. I know virtually not a day goes by when a package doesn't show up on my front porch. But to get to that level, to get to that saturation in the market, Jeff Bezos did a really smart thing, in my opinion, and that was he didn't focus on being the largest retailer. He really focused on having the best customer experience. And I think most of you will admit that the vast majority of the time, if not all the time, that experience is always really top notch. I know I've had a couple of situations where I've had to return some things, and my gosh, it was just absolutely no question asked. So just absolutely a wonderful way. And I really do believe that business got to where it was simply because of those, that principle is, we're gonna take every opportunity to get a little bit better every single day. And that's really what I want to focus on today. There's going to be 4 areas of focus that I want to talk about. And that's convenience, transparency, trust, and employee retention. And so you talk about why to go digital, and I want to kind of tie that back, and so you can kind of see where I'm taking the presentation today to those 4 things. How do I achieve a great customer experience? What is a perfect digital experience? Well, the best way I can define that would be, does it create excessive convenience? Does it make this, the process as convenient as it possibly can, incorporating digital tools. Because if you look at a lot of other industries today, quite simply put, that those places are getting ahead, or that retailer is doing more business, or they're receiving higher satisfaction scores, and simply because they've raised the bar on convenience and making that convenient. Now, for us in the retail automotive business, we've got some things to overcome. Let's just be frank. I mean, I started out in retail automotive myself back in the late '80s. Spent about 23 years, in the dealership, in almost every single role that you could possibly have. And so, I think I can speak from authority, position of experience, where I know that we've got transparency issues, we've got some trust issues out there. I mean, and it shows if you just look at the statistics. Of all the folks out there every single month that are making a decision to get their car serviced, we as franchise automotive dealers only capture about a third of that business. Why is that? And I think when overwhelmingly the responses that we get are the dealership's too expensive, or they charge too much for this, or whatever those are. And we all know in this call today, I think if you really did some cross shopping, you would know, and you probably do know, that you're probably not more expensive than the competition. You probably strive to be competitive, and I frankly think that most dealerships do. So, but the problem is we've never been very good at being transparent, which leads to trust problems, right? I mean, if they can't find out how much your services cost, if it's excessively hard, if the answer is just come in and we'll talk about it, that lack of transparency creates a sense of untrustworthiness, which ultimately could lead to customers migrating away from you. So what we've got to do today is, what I want to do today, I should say, is I want to establish why we should embark upon a digital process. I mean, and it's pretty simple. 255 million Americans shop every day. That's basically 88% of the adult population shop online in some various form or fashion, and that's going to skyrocket by 2024 to almost 280 million. There's only 350 so million people in the United States. So it's just absolutely astonishing why we would not be embracing all of the opportunities we have to do digital business. And that's the same statistics I just shared with you, and you can see just a steady increase just from 2017, which just seems a couple of years ago. That you follow that out, and that's going to take you all the way to 280 million folks. So I mean, we can all think that our customer base is different. We can all say, well, you don't understand. We, our brand or our demographic or our location, that's not the way our customers, want to interact. Look, I think we can be in denial as long as we want, but the truth is, we can't pretend that our customers aren't interacting digitally with many of the businesses that they choose to do business with every single day, because that is not absolutely the case. So we have to figure out how we're going to transform our business and fixed operations in the retail automotive to a more digital, customer-friendly experience. Now, I'm going to outline for you guys 4 areas today. I'm not going to be able to tell you what that perfect experience is. I wish I could. I wish I could define that for you and be able to say, okay, in your store, this is it. In your store, this is it. But what we can do is we can embrace the facts. And the facts are pretty simple. We're going to talk, like I said, about 4 different areas of business, and it's all going to be really associated with communication and how we communicate with people in various forms and fashions. But I found some really interesting statistics that by the way, again, this is all going to be included in the handout. All you have to do is download it. I'm not going to read these slides to you, but a few things that really jumped out at me was when you look at business texting statistics, and this is across all businesses and all commerce, almost 80% of the people wish they could have a text conversation with the business. We focus a lot of times in our business with the phone. Let's pick up the phone. Let's pick up the phone for the upsell. Let's pick up the phone to set the appointment. Let's pick up the phone to do the follow-up. Let's pick up the phone, because they're going to call in to make the appointment. But the reality is, and I think you're the same way. I know I am. If I can interact with the business via text, it should be much more efficient for me, right? And I don't have, sometimes there's a little bit of emotion and there's a little bit of, that's kind of lost. But the reality is that's what people prefer. And they overwhelmingly prefer the use of texting for scheduling or changing appointments. I know when I get a haircut, I use an app. It informs me via text, and recently with, some of the social distancing requirements and things like that, it says, look, hey, sit in your car. I'll text you when it's time to come in. It's a wonderful thing. Again, I don't want to overburden you with stats and statistics, but just think about it. I mean, you say, well, that's not the way I want to do it. It removes the human element. I'm not so sure about that. I think if we continue to think, well, we want to do it this way, and we don't want to align with the way the customer wants to do business with you, then at some point, those, two paths are going to dissect, right? They're going to head off a different direction, and you're going to start to have a retention problem. But just two things on this slide that really jumped out at me. Bottom line is, what does it cost you to man a phone and use a phone to interact with your customers versus what it would cost to text them? Not to mention the fact that texts, are read, like 90+% of texts are read within just a few seconds. Oftentimes, I mean, I know I've got 4 daughters, and I don't even think they even know that smartphone is a phone. I think that, I'll call them, leave a message, they'll text me back, hey, Dad, what do you want? So, the reality is, if I want to have a conversation with them, I got to start with a text. And then you take a look at the bottom bullet point here. Response rates from text are 209% higher from those phone calls. So if there's not a reason to digitally interact with your customer that you can clearly see, maybe some of these statistics will open your eyes up to the fact that this is what your customers are demanding. And it doesn't stop just because we're in the automotive business. It's happening everywhere. So when we take a look at the service process in general and kind of the wheel, the way we define it here at Xtime, I mean, everything starts with a scheduled appointment. So let's talk about how a digital experience will impact every single one of these things. And first and foremost, scheduling. I'm going to get some statistics a little bit early on scheduling, but the reality is, and this may shock you, that almost half your customers don't even know that they can schedule an appointment with you online. Why is that? Well, I can tell you why it is. It's because too many of us define customer service today by saying, hey, just come in and we're going to take care of you. When I first got in the car business in the late 80s, that was good customer service. You know what? We're here for you. We want to give the impression we're sitting around like the old Maytag repairman that's just sitting there because they never break down, right? We're just here ready for you, ready to come in. So you don't need an appointment, just come on in. And the reality is, I understand that every single vehicle that's going to visit service today is not going to have an appointment. I get it. Cars have problems, there's mechanical problems, there's drivability concerns. Heck, every once in a while we get one of those recalls where they say park the car. I get that. But the truth is, we've got to work on using the digital scheduling tools that we have. And everyone on this call today has most likely got our scheduling software with a very robust portal that can be excessively transparent, create trust, and show your customers everything that you're offering digitally. Once they do make it to the store, engage, and we're going to talk about tablet check-in and using a tablet to interact with your customers on the drive. Again, bringing very basic technology into the service drive. I was talking to a dealer recently that was at a Lincoln store, and he was explaining to me that his customers didn't text, they didn't like text, they didn't like digital anything. It just wasn't going to work for them. And I turned around and looked in his waiting room, and every single person, now I'll admit it was a slightly older demographic, but every single person in there either had an iPad in their hand or they were on their smartphone. Now, I don't understand why they wouldn't want digital photos. They wouldn't want a digital information. I have a hard time bridging that gap. So with Engage, obviously, that's a complete digital experience. We're doing it on an iPad. And now that, COVID is and social distancing is kind of going, is getting way better. I wouldn't say it's completely evaporated from our existence, but it's certainly getting way better. It's time we can approach people and we can show them digitally. Now, obviously, our inspection software, whether you have our inspection software, you have any type of a digital MPI, look, that tool is probably the biggest efficiency tool. And I spoke earlier of those 4 things: convenience, transparency, trust. You're going to build those things with schedule and engage, and especially inspect. But we also spoke about employee retention. One of the toughest things that we're overcoming right now in the fixed operations side of the business is keeping people working there and getting people to come back. or if we've had to downsize or furlough, trying to get, every single day when I talk to dealers, it's, we're understaffed. Well, let's think about how technology can improve the work environment for our employees. I mean, if I'm a technician and I'm being asked to do things on paper, or I've got a paper inspection form, or I'm having to write a lot of things out, or I'm having to write things on the back of a greasy hard copy of an RO, and then manually go walk over to parts and then walk it up to the advisor. I mean, all that stuff we were doing in the 80s. We can digitize all that. We can make that employee experience so much better. And then the customer benefits are amazing, absolutely amazing on the other side of it. We can send a digital quote that fully explains all the things that we're recommending on their vehicle, with photos, videos, a digital quote that all can be texted to them. They can see it on their smartphone. They can see it on their laptop. We can email it to them. All of those things are vitally important, because they're your consumers, your customers are all getting all of that in other aspects of their business life, whoever they're dealing with. I mean, my gosh, you go to a restaurant, COVID gave us the gift of the QR code again, right? Remember the QR code, the little square code that kind of was a thing for a while, and then it kind of went away. Well, heck, you go to a restaurant now, they don't have menus. I mean, if I was running a restaurant, I'd never have another menu, ever. Everybody's got a smartphone and everybody's got a camera pretty much, and all those cameras are going to zap that QR code and I can see the menu. And not only does it save me a ton of money, it also gives me the flexibility to change my menu frequently, and I don't have to reprint a bunch of stuff. So we got to think about that. We got to think about how that it's everywhere. So as I go through that process, I mean, I can use those tools, and then of course digital marketing to bring them right back. So again, convenience, transparency, trust, and employee retention. So if you're looking for a reason why we've got to embrace these things, if those aren't compelling enough, I don't know what could be more compelling. So let's just jump into this. Like I mentioned, we're going to talk about 4 specific areas that I believe, I'm not going to say they're low-hanging fruit, and I'm certainly not going to say that this is the easiest thing on the planet to do. But I'm going to tell you, if you can just adapt digital processes in these 4 areas, you're going to see a remarkable improvement, not only in customer satisfaction, but you're going to see it on the bottom line too. And I'll show you some interesting information about the improvements that are made by embracing some of this technology in your customer interactions. So first, let's jump into online scheduling. Like I mentioned earlier, according to the 2018 Cox studies, by the way, I know you say maybe that's a little old. I got it. We're in the process of doing a brand new study right now. We'll have that out in probably October. So, be looking for that. We generally publish that in Automotive News, and we're going to have that sales and fixed ops. We'll be publishing that as well. That's going to be also a resource available at coxautomotive.com. But half of your customers didn't even realize that you could go online and schedule. And why was that? Well, we got to overcome that just come in culture. We've got to start talking to our customers about a better way to interact with us. I talk to advisors all the time. They say, well, I feel like I've lost control. I feel like I'm not in control of the ROE. And, having to pick up a phone and call somebody and leave a message, and then they call you back, and they don't want to call you back. Remember, 78% of them would prefer to text, but they don't want to call you back, but they do anyway. But guess what happens? They get the voicemail because the advisor's busy. We're asking them to do a lot more. Remember, we talked about earlier, we're understaffed, right? So, then we call them back and hopefully we get them. And sometimes, what happens? And you guys all know this. They just show up when they thought we needed to come back to pick their vehicle up. And now we're asking them about brakes. Now we're asking them about tire. That isn't going to work. We all know that. Well, we'll do it next time. Yeah. Well, that's what happens when it's just come in. Not to mention the fact that if you're going to plug up your service drive every morning with walk-ins. That's a whole nother webinar. But so build your business around a digital process. If you really, take each segment of your business and break it out, because it's really, really likely to fail if you're just doing pieces of your process digitally. Okay, fine, you can market digitally to get them in, but the reality is once they hand you the keys, we need to have a seamless digital transaction. because starting with a clipboard and then going to a text and then going to an email and then coming back, coming back to a cashier where I've got to manually hand you a credit card, that is very disjointed. It doesn't feel comfortable to a customer. It feels like, we're doing some parts of it one way and other parts another. I think you can all understand why we need to focus on a seamless transition there. And obviously appointments will enable consistency and efficiency. If I can schedule my day, I can be much more efficient. If I know what appointments are coming in, I don't have to stock as many parts, do I? I mean, we can all get parts next day virtually, or at least a couple of days. And if we're setting appointments out and we know if somebody calls in and says, I need an oil change on a Monday, well, I can get you in on Wednesday, or I can get you in late today. Maybe an oil change isn't a great example, but if I've got, a full multi-point or a 30K or something I want to do, knowing what's coming, I can project what I need for parts, right? So it's going to help me with my parts inventory. And then bottom line is this, and I've said this for years if you've attended other one of my webinars, consistency. If you want retention, and I know we all do, right? That's what the big buzzword's been for years now. If you want retention, you have to be consistent. Consistency is what creates retention. We all, think about anybody or any website or anything you buy from or anywhere you visit, it's a consistent experience that you're looking for. That's comfort, and that's what gets them to come back. So here's just a few finer points. I'll kind of go through these quickly. Make sure that, I'm not going to say that every single customer goes to Google, but the vast majority of your users are probably going to hit Google up. Make it easy for your customer to schedule service with you. And that's going to start by going to your free Google listing, go online, log in there. You've got control of what shows up. And just put a link directly to your scheduled service. It's super easy to do. You just copy the schedule. You copy when somebody clicks on your website that they want to schedule service, it takes them to a URL. All you got to do is copy and paste that into Google. Put in there I want to schedule service, bam, and there you go. And it's going to take you straight to that scheduled service link on your website. Interestingly enough, most automotive, franchise dealer websites are really set up with a heavy focus and intent on the sales side. And I get it. I understand. Sales are fun. It's sexy. You got the big grill on the building and, the balloons are flying, people are buying. It's real exciting. I get all that. But half the people visiting your website today aren't there to buy a car. They're there to get the car serviced. So let's not be afraid to send them directly to that service link. And once they get there, let's make it easy for them to find. I get asked all the time, Darrell, if you went back into retail automotive, what would you do? And I said, well, one of the things I would do is when you entered my website at Darrel Ferguson Motors, the first thing you would see is a split screen, and one would say sales really, really big, and one would say service really, really big. And I would make it very, very simple for my customer. If they wanted to come to me for sales, I can take you directly to where all my great deals are on my inventory, or I can take you all the way straight to service where I can schedule an appointment and show you all the specials that I've got going. So make sure it's clearly there and easy to get to, because the last thing you want to do is focus on a great online scheduling experience and the customer can't get there. Second thing is obviously training staff. You've got to have a culture of scheduling. Let's encourage scheduling. There's all kinds of simple little tricks that you can do to drive people to your web scheduler. A lot of people go back to those QR codes, super simple. Make a QR code, it's free, go online, put your URL for your service scheduler in there, and then just print a couple of hundred of them on little waterproof Avery labels. They cost about $30 for 1,000 of them, and just stick them on the door jamb of the car. When you deliver the car, say, hey, just hold your camera over this next time and it'll take you straight to the scheduler. I mean, there's so many ways that you can do that. Look, QR codes are back, right? Put them on your business cards, put them on your ROs, put them everywhere, and make it easy for the customer to get to. The second piece is just like I talked about, the digital service drive. And this is, we're not going to go into length on this, and some of you folks on the line today have got our tablet solution for check-in, which is really an extension of our scheduling tool. Some of you do not. Some of you have other tablet things. Some of you still have clipboards. But the bottom line is, if you're a dealership out there today that's still using a clipboard to engage customers, it's so much of a better way. I mean, think about all the things you can't do with a clipboard. I mean, we can take that, that mimeograph paper that's been copied 1,000 times that you can barely read anymore, and we can make a few notes on it. We can do that, and we can do a pseudo walk-up. And yeah, there's a picture of you know, a Ford Pinto on there that you're going to draw some things on. I get it, okay? But the reality is that can all be done digitally and can be very inexpensively, actually. You know, it gives you the ability to call them by name. We see who they are. We see who the appointments are. You know, we can verify their information. You know, that's one of the biggest things we hear when we've got complaints from customers is poor communication. Well, it's hard to communicate with people that we don't have accurate information for. You know, opt them in for texting. You know, people will let you text them. I will. If you're going to update me on my service visit, if you're going to update me on anything, text me. Way easier to get me. I mean, I can review your service history. I can check recalls. I can do a basic walk around, you know, check the tires, check the battery terminals, check the blades, check for bulbs, you know, what have you. If you do paintless dent repair, I can do that. Body work. There's so many things I can do, you know, and then the biggie, which I think is the most important thing, is being able to do a factory menu consultation and show them what they're due for right now, what the manufacturer says they're due for. It's so much more valid when you're talking about that. Of course, damage photos. We all probably have a you know, line on the statement for policy work, and we're expecting to spend X amount every month, and that's just money that's gone, evaporates. You know, in stores that take photos of every vehicle that come across the drive. You know, policy work really is policy work. It is really, you know, things that we actually damaged. And it obviously, you know, it encourages appointments. If I've got a tablet and they had an appointment, this process is much easier, and I can talk with them about making an appointment next time with my walk-ins. So many things on that you can impress your customer with digitally to make that experience much, much better. Don't forget, if you've got any questions, drop them in the question box. I'm going to take a quick peek at this and see. Yes, I can hear you. Let's see, Matt. Nothing happens till you sell a car. Couldn't agree more. Nothing. I couldn't agree more. We got to sell cars. And if you're talking about my comments about the website, I couldn't agree more. All I'm saying is we don't need to abandon selling vehicles on our website. But we do need to come to the realization that half the customers aren't there to buy. They're there to service the car that you already sold them. So I appreciate your comment there, Matt. So let's just jump into the third section, which is digital quoting. And really, it's really all about media. So if you take a look at the recent statistics from, you know, we've done a couple of studies, you know, not only the 2018 study, but throughout the, you know, the COVID pandemic. We did a number of studies on a weekly basis almost throughout 2020 and 21. And we started taking a look at the impact of multimedia. When I talk about multimedia, I'm talking about photos and videos. And when you take a look, we process, you know, millions and millions of ROs through our systems every single year. And when you take a look at month over month and quarters, you go from about a 25% closing rate on upsells with no picture and no video. If you add picture and video, it just improves dramatically. It will go all the way up to 51% when combined with both. So if you can add a photo of a failing component, you get about a 6% bump. If you add a photo and you know, of a failing component and then a walk around video or a video of failing components, we've seen about a 51% closing ratio on those upsells, because seeing is believing. And when we dig in and we ask consumers, you know, are they willing, you know, 54% said they'd be willing to pay more when the videos and pictures are attached. So basically, seeing is believing. And here's the thing, and if there's no other reason to get, you know, to get photos and videos in front of your customers, 70% increase in your average dollars per RO by simply taking a little extra time, taking photos of the dirty filter, taking photos, you know, the brake measuring tool next to the brake, taking photos of the tire depth gauge next to the tire, doing a quick video walk around. You know, a lot of people have the misconception that we have to put the technician on the camera and he has to turn the camera on himself and smile and say, you know, hey, I'm Darrell, I'm your technician. And now you don't have to do that. You can be in the background, you can walk around, you can introduce yourself, you can show them the walk around. You know, with our video tool, you can pause it and you can take, you know, shoot, you know, a minute and a half, up to 2-minute video if you want to send that long of a video. And then in addition to that, you send a photo with the failing components. It is a thing of beauty, and we see a 70% increase in dollars per hour. Bottom line is we've seen a lot of adoption. We've got a 39% increase in dealerships that have adopted this. And I understand why. I think we were forced into, you know, somewhat of, with COVID and the pandemic, We were forced to do things a little bit differently. We had a lot less face-to-face interaction with our clients, rightfully so, I understand. But, I think now that we've seen the impacts of this from the dollars per hour, and trust me, I get it. Inventory's tight. With the chip shortage and low volumes that we're able to get at the auctions, and when the prices we're having to pay for those vehicles, we've got to get that growth somewhere. And again, I wanted to stick with 4 things that I know we could do, that we can do quickly, that are going to generate a lot of growth for you. Video and photo is absolutely necessary to do that today. So with that process, it's super easy. It couldn't be easier. You can do it all from a smartphone. You start with the tech, it goes to the advisor, it goes to the customer approves it digitally. It's all handled internally. There's no questions. And again, what is it doing? What is it satisfying from those things I mentioned early on? It certainly satisfies convenience, transparency, trust. Seeing is believing. So let's move on. Take a quick drink here. I've been talking a lot. Excuse me. Last section we're going to talk about today is online payment. When I was asked in a recent interview that I was doing with Automotive News, they said, well, what is one thing, that a dealership could do that wouldn't be extremely expensive, it wouldn't be overly taxing, that's something that could wow customers and make things easier in just a really quick fashion? And I just automatically just said online payment. And here's why. In all the surveys we've done, and you think about all the ways that you can pay. We say, well, I don't know if I want to put my credit card online. Well, that's the thing in the past, right? But the most convenient way to pay for something, you think about it, is you present me with an invoice. I can review the invoice. I can understand what the invoice means. That's the pictures and video piece, right? And then I've got a convenient way that I can just simply pay, right? And we think it's a revolutionary thing. Well, it is a revolutionary thing in our industry. And not only is it just paying for that service, but when you look at the millennial generation, and we saw some interesting statistics on this recently, and these are actually going to be part of that study. We asked some questions, we've seen some preliminary information, but kind of the 21 to 35 demographic, are more likely to take advantage of flexible payment options. And when they have flexible payment options, and what I mean by that is some type of a FlexPay, a Dignify, or a Sunbit, or some type of an outside finance agency, and many of you have those. And generally, they're little brochures on the side, and you talk about them when people say, I can't afford that. If you offer that, a lot of times that's taken advantage of, and they'll spend more money. But you don't have to do it physically. When you come across with a customer in a physical conversation or over the phone, it becomes almost like a sales tactic, right? Well, when you just offer it as an opportunity or a way to pay for services, we've seen an overwhelming response to take advantage of buying more services because they've got flexible payment options. So think about that. We can incorporate those into our tools. Like I said, currently we've got, if you're a Dignify client or a Sunbit client, we have the ability to incorporate those into our tools and give that customer the option to take advantage of those flexible payment options. And you will see an improvement. You will see a gross improvement. But bottom line is, when I'm going back to convenience, transparency, trust, I present them all that stuff digitally, and now I've got the ability to send them an email or text them an ability to pay, send them a receipt, send them an invoice. They're very, very comfortable with that, and they can get in and out of the dealership faster. The question posed to me was, why is that something that's low hanging fruit to you? Well, think about it. And you don't experience this because you're in the service industry. But if I come into a dealership, I don't know much about vehicles, I bring my vehicle in because I need service. I go through the process, I get the service done, and then I go to a cashier, which his job is just to make sure that we complete the transaction. If I have questions, do I get my answers? I generally don't. What I've got to do is now I'm going to go back and talk to my advisor and find out what all this means, right? So if I've got all that digitally, maybe I do have those questions, but I certainly can interact with the customer via text. or I can, have those photos and all those descriptions sent to them in advance. So bottom line is there's 4 takeaways today. Make your online scheduling your culture. Encourage customers to schedule. And I'm not saying that tell customers not to call in and make appointments. I would just tell you that if you could just beef up and have a very robust scheduling tool, the vast majority of the questions are going to get answered. If you offer loaner cars, or you offer shuttle service, or you offer Lyft rides, or or whatever it is that you offer, all of that can be included, and all of that can be scheduled digitally without having to get on the phone. It's to me the perfect experience. Digitize the service drive with the tablet. There's no end to what you can do to really raise the bar on customer satisfaction with the tablet on the drive. 100% text upsell quotes, videos and photos every time. If it's a green inspection, there's nothing wrong. Still need to send them a video. Get them used to that. Show them that you're making the commitment to that. Look, people watch videos. Photos sell everything. So, and then offering online payment and financing with every RO. Obviously the finance companies, I think there's generally a limit. If it's not 350 or more, the financing's not available. But the truth is, under 350, is generally not a number where people are looking for financing. But if you've got a ticket out there that's $600, $700, $800, you may have a customer making a decision on whether to put that off or budget for that next time. So offer some type of financing and offer online payment options. And then the last thing I would offer everyone on the call today, before I take any questions, is you need to be constantly looking for opportunities to go digital. I've given you guys 4 areas today, but there's countless others where you can digitize the experience. And again, we're always constantly striving to improve our tools to improve the customer experience. There are lots of tools, and even our tools, and so many things that we can do internally. Internal chat tools, and all the things that our tools offer, and a lot of other solutions offer as well. But think about ways that you can go digital, because those 4 things are important. Convenience for your customer, creating that transparency, raising the level of trust so they feel comfortable dealing with you, which raises your retention. And bottom line is, we got to keep our employees happy. Happy employees create happy customers. I think we all can agree to that. So that being said, I really appreciate everybody's time today. Let's just jump into some questions. Let's see. Todd asks, and the guys, what about mobile check-in? Absolutely. I wish I had time to cover everything today. Through our Engage check-in tablet, we absolutely can text them. Absolutely, the ability to check in mobily, just like checking in at the airport or checking in for the hotel ahead of time. Todd, I wish I had more time today to go through all that, but yes, that is absolutely, and soon to come, mobile checkout. We're working on that right now. We'll have that out soon. No question, but I recommend adding a message about online scheduling availability to your voicemail or on hold message. That's a great idea, Lisa. I've recommended that commonly. Many of us have, that on hold, not necessarily music. Sometimes it's, talking about great things that are happening in the community or the dealership or your upcoming, a new owner clinic. Yeah, absolutely. Did you know that you can conveniently and easily schedule online at, darrelferguson.com? Great suggestion. Matt asks, what are the best practices for implementing this solution? Are the advisors supposed to take the photo video, or are the techs supposed to do this? I would tell you that the tech needs to take the video and do the photos. Now that, we've seen it work best that way. But again, like I mentioned, a lot of times we have this misconception that we need to put somebody's face on the video, and we don't. And I think, a lot of times we talk to our technicians about that. I'm like, oh man, I don't want to be on a video. Well, you're not on a video. It's your arm, or you're walking around. So I would say the absolute best practice would be a short walk around video with the technician talking, and then snapping photos of individual failing components. That is where you get the most bang for your buck. Now, that being said, I want to make sure that quote aligns with that, video and those photos. So before I send it to the customer, that's where my advisor would get involved, and I would have them quickly watch the video, listen to what's being said, and make sure we're quoting the right things. We've had situations where we've had a technician, they're in a hurry, they're busy, and they mention a failing component. They don't put it in as an ASR, and now they're talking about it on the video, but we don't have it in there. So we probably need to get that in there. Or vice, it could be on there and not mentioned. So it's really important that we go about that. Now, our tools will enable you to do it. We've got a basic express multimedia where the technician can send a video straight to the customer. The advisor can send it as well. And then we also have the enhanced multimedia, which gives us the ability to add a lot more media. And then we have a process where the advisor checks it ahead of time. Also, see, Matt also asked, are the techs using a computer to fill out the MPI? Do they also need an iPad to video? Look, you can do the MPI on the computer, absolutely. But I will tell you, we recently revamped our mobile app. And to be quite frank with you, a small iPad with a camera is what I would recommend, because you can do the MPI right. You can actually do the MPI right on your phone. We have a lot of technicians that'll use a larger smartphone, and that's what they love to use. That's what they love, because quite frankly, the camera technology is pretty impressive on most of these new smartphones. But yeah, they can choose any way they want, Matt. They can do it on a desktop if they want to fill it out. They can do it on an iPad. They can do it on any smartphone that's Android or iOS. It doesn't matter. Either one will work. And then see, which application or product do techs use to do the photos and videos? We have enhanced multimedia that can be added on to inspect. And let's see. All right. Okay, well, I don't see any more questions today. We're a little bit over time, but I really appreciate everybody's time today. So just a couple of things. If you want a copy of the presentation, if you'll just quickly click handouts in the control panel, you can download that. It goes super fast. It's it's a PDF, so it loads up really quick. Also, too, if you want a recording of the presentation, happy to provide that. At about an hour and a half ago, you guys got an email from me. Just respond back to that saying, hey, I need a copy of that recording. I'd love to provide that to you. The bottom line is this: I direct the performance management team here at Xtime. Our job and mission in life is just simply for you guys to get the most out of the software. If you don't know who your performance manager is, let me know, and we'll get you hooked up. Reach out to me directly. I'm happy to help you any way we can. We really appreciate your time today, and we really appreciate your business. So hopefully some of these things will help guide you in the right direction. If you're not already there, add some of these things in. I know you'll see a huge improvement. So thanks everybody for your time, and have a great day.